All right, thanks everybody for your patience, and thank you all for attending the webinar today. This webinar and concept was really birthed from my own personal experiences in the proposal writing / technical writing trade and some of the scars I bear, frankly, whether it be from working in SharePoint 2007, 2010, and 2013 on premises or on corporate file shares in some cases. The other issues I faced were with IT and BD kind of having conflicting interests. And I worked with super smart and professional folks nonetheless, but on both sides, the interdependence kind of caused extra work and delays on both sides that were really unnecessary. So before I blab anymore, let me cover some housekeeping. Please use the question function as we go along to ask questions so that we can respond rather during the session or after the webinar, whether it be via email or something to that effect. Also, you will find a couple polls that you can participate in anonymously, and we will kind of use that to hopefully contextualize the talk a little bit, getting those responses from you. And also, too, just be aware that there are no dumb questions, and even if there are, nobody else will be able to see your questions except for us. So you can kind of ask freely and don't feel like you got a word anything especially articulate. So the webinar will be recorded and distributed within minutes after the end of the webinar. So you should check your spam or junk folders in the event that you just don't see it within a couple minutes. And due to time to get through the material, we may not get to all the questions. However, as stated previously, we will follow up with those that are not answered separately in email or otherwise. So to get into it a little bit, Summit 7 Systems, both Patrick and myself, the speakers for today, we are from Summit 7 Systems, and the company is a Microsoft Gold partner and cloud-focused company supporting the federal contractor community, or the DIB as they like to call it, the Defense Industrial Base. And Summit 7 helps contractors generate the most ROI out of their Microsoft investment, kind of like our talk today, and protecting their data and the government's data. Our greatest efforts to that end are really just currently helping businesses configure their cloud environments to NIST 800-171 and to meet DFAR 7012. So without further ado, let me do a quick intro of who we have presenting today. So you have myself. I am a communication and collaboration professional, self-titled, and for relevance to this webinar, I've served as the sole business development manager of a small IT-centric government contracting business before, and as a publications lead within a large defense and aerospace company. I graduated from the University of Alabama in Huntsville, UAH, with undergraduate degrees in physics and communications, and recently got an MBA from Tennessee Tech University with a focus in MIS, and have a little bit of an ITIL background. Next to me is Mr. Patrick Abel. He is a full-stack software developer with more than 8 years of experience serving organizations through basically just the design and development of innovative cloud solutions. He also has a bachelor's in information systems management from Athens State University, and today, for Summit 7 specifically, Patrick focuses on information architecture and business solution development on the Office 365 and Azure Stack. So that's enough about us. Let's get into it, shall we? So the title of this whole presentation is about modern proposal management. So I think it's fair to go ahead and start with modern government contractors. And I think some of this could be extrapolated to other types of companies, but for today we're just going to kind of focus on this crowd. And the vast majority of government contractors are now moving to cloud platforms. Reason being, it's mainly just to meet compliance and security requirements. Two distinct sets of requirements. Sometimes there's overlapping, but it's mainly to meet compliance and security. The other thing is these businesses are wanting to become more agile with the consistent onboarding and offloading nature of the business. You win a contract, you plus up 100 people, you lose a contract, you lose 50. It can deviate quite a bit. And so being able to manage licenses and users and infrastructure is just a little bit easier. It can be to manage in the cloud. And other folks are looking just to consolidate and integrate systems for different financial gains. But those are the main drivers. So moving on from that, modern proposal management challenges. So I've talked about this modern proposal management thing. Let's talk about the challenges to what I believe is modern proposal management. Historically, proposal and BD professionals are likely the least informed or trained on new IT functionality. Now, this does not mean that these individuals are not like technically savvy or extremely versed in some of the legacy platforms and systems that the company used to use, but many of these individuals do not have the time to research new functionality or updates in Office 365, let alone dig into what comes out of the box. And that can be things like SharePoint Online and some of the other workloads. This condition is kind of also perpetuated by another challenge, which is many organizations are reliant on their IT support staff, whether internal or through like a managed service provider, some sort of tech support, to do some of the routine proposal management tasks, such as granting and removing permissions, creating new proposal sites, or even automating a certain function. Heaven forbid you want to automate something, you're going to have the IT team kind of step in and do all of that for you. So why is this a problem? So really, it boils down to a couple things. First off, the proposal team is kind of dependent upon the IT staff every time they decide to, or the BD teams decide, okay, we're going to go after this particular RFP, we're going to go after this work, we're going to bid on it. They decide to bid on it, and then the time from deciding to start the bid and the time that the actual folders and site structures and lists and all those things are created for the proposal team to start working and plopping documents in and sharing things and collaborating, the time it takes for IT to handle that and to build all that out, depending on their backlog, could take anywhere from 24 to 72 hours at the very least. And in many cases, what we found is more 72 hours and above for that ticket to be completed. So nevertheless, that's a challenge because your competition is starting to write their proposals typically faster than you are if they're doing what I'm calling modern proposal management. The other thing is I would go to venture that most of the IT crowd on the call today does not thoroughly enjoy some of the rote proposal management tasks that they're having to do on behalf of the proposal teams. It's not the most exciting things in the world to do. And you could be doing other things. That's the biggest deal. And yeah, so those are the biggest challenges. And in addition to that, there's also this kind of problem with shadow IT in that some of the proposal teams are trying to find workarounds if they cannot get what they need from the IT team, or they'll be building a proposal site or anything like that. So we want to try to combat that, if you will. So let's talk about modern proposal management. Okay, I've been talking about it. Let's kind of define that. So really and truly, you're not changing any of your processes. You keep doing everything how you've been doing it. Don't change how you do your reviews or your data calls, or how you do your writing and assignments of that type of thing, and how you track data calls. Don't change any of that. And also, too, let's not add any extra burden on the IT team. All the while, we can increase productivity. As I previously mentioned, that's in spinning up these proposal sites. It's how you manage data calls and communicate and collaborate with everybody on your proposal writing team, internal and external. All of that stuff can be automated and done in a more efficient manner. And also, too, the IT folks on the call will probably appreciate this, or on the webinar. You will appreciate the fact that the security part of it can increase. So the big thing when I talk about modern proposal management, it's two things that are happening. One, the proposal team gets to kind of gain the reins, if you will, on their processes and start their proposals faster. But yet at the same time, even though the proposal team has more control, the IT team and the IT infrastructure, those folks get added security reign, if you will, because of how all of these things are provisioned and automatically done. They can kind of define security on the front end because it'll be baked into every single activity that's done by the proposal team. So increased security for the IT team, increased control and productivity for the proposal management teams. So let's really get into what we're talking about here from a technical standpoint. So many companies we worked with and many of the companies I've worked for start the proposal process by creating a site or a central location to collaborate and maintain all of the proposal materials and whatnots. Sometimes this process of site creation takes place well before proposal development in the capture or BD process. So this is when you're thinking about bidding on something, you may go ahead and create a site or a place for a specific RFP or a bid. And nevertheless, the product process can look the same regardless of where the actual quote-unquote site creation or collaborative space creation is done, whether it be in the capture or the proposal process. So, and sometimes it's both. Sometimes you're creating a new site or a place to work during the capture process and during the proposal process. So think about, in your mind, all of the folders, lists, documents, templates, spreadsheets, and all of those things that you have to create every time you start a proposal or capture effort. Then I also want you to think about the permissions that have to be granted and restrictions on certain folders and documents that have to be applied. Though it doesn't require that many hours, we've known businesses to expect, like I said earlier, up to like 72-hour turnaround time by the time they submit something to the IT department to conduct all these activities. And then also too, there's I know some companies that try to script some things to automate some of that process with on-premises systems, which is oftentimes going to be breaking, oftentimes going to need more attention from the IT team, and it's kind of a never-ending cycle. So once again, trying to take burden off the IT team, giving control to the proposal management teams, but also increase security. So with SharePoint Online's site provisioning capabilities, this turnaround time can be reduced to minutes. We'll call it 5 to 10 minutes. Data call coordination is also extremely tedious and email driven. The amount of time you spend, or you must spend, like sending out emails, fielding multiple emails with multiple attachments, ensuring those attachments are downloaded to your computer and then later uploaded to the proper folder, and then recording each data call action in some spreadsheet. It's a lot. Throughout of the box capabilities, most, if not all, of these tasks, I believe, can be reduced to at least half time. That's also not considering the reviews and writing cycles. Some of that I will be showing you can be applied to those processes as well, and even further into some of the capture activities such as NDA and TA agreement processing. So a lot of what we're showing today, yes, it may apply to just some of the proposal process, but it also can be integrated into the capture process and how you build out other sites and other kind of working locations. Moving on, so let's kind of define some things. To recap, let's remember these concepts. Site designs, when I say site designs, they are like a template. They can be used each time you create a new site, and it applies a consistent set of actions. So these actions are defined in what I'm going to call recipes, called site scripts, which detail the actions to be performed on behalf of that site design that is chosen. So the site design is made up of one-to-many site scripts, and the site design is what you select when creating a site, and then each of the design's site scripts, or in air quotes, recipes, are executed after the site is created, kind of in a linear fashion. Kind of typical coding, if you will. So let's talk about some of these ingredients to the recipe and what's going on behind the scenes in a more technical sense. To make these widespread configurations happen and to give you the exact site you want every time, so every time you bid on a new proposal, you get the same thing every time, the provisioning pipeline relies on 3 kind of major components. You got modern SharePoint Online, or SPO, you have site designs, and then you have the Azure government side, or whatever your flavor of Azure is. If you're a government contractor on the webinar today, you're typically talking Azure government. So for SharePoint Online, the functionality within hub sites allows you to centralize multiple sites around like a certain purpose or function. So this could be business groups, project groups, or business lines. In our particular case, we will have a proposal management hub site that is kind of laterally associated with several proposal sites and efforts. Your hub site can be kind of like an intranet of old, where you have focused links and news bites, and those can be appropriately surfaced as well as a quick access to many of your, for basically all of your sites and proposal efforts. So let's walk through the core building blocks involved with our solution. You'll kind of see this hamburger stack here to best kind of demonstrate this. To make these kind of widespread configurations happen and to give you the exact site you want every time, the provisioning pipeline relies on basically like three major components: modern SharePoint Online, site designs, and Azure Government, or in our case, Azure Government. Some of you folks may be on Azure, but for the government contractors in the room, we're mainly talking Azure Government. So with SharePoint Online, we're kind of leveraging hub sites, team sites, and Microsoft Flow as part of this solution, or this type of solution. And the functionality within hub sites allows you to kind of centralize multiple sites around a certain purpose or function. So let's say business groups, project groups, or business lines. In our particular case, though, we will have a proposal management hub site that is laterally associated with several proposal sites and efforts. And your hub site can be like the intranet of old, where focused link and news bites can be appropriately surfaced, as well as quick access to your many sites or proposal efforts. And each time you are creating one of these collaborative sites per RFP, you'll be creating a team site and a unique group. This group will automatically come with a site-specific email group. Like if you create an MDA Teams site, it will come with the MDA Teams group with a unique email like mdateams@s7gear.com. S7gear.com is the URL we'll be working with today, or the tenant we'll be working with today. And for easy communication across the team, that's how this works. It'll kind of keep everybody on that same MDA Teams email group. So if you wanted to distro to everybody, you could do so using that group very easily. Also, too, this group and its users will be unique to this site. So those individuals, just because they're put in this group, will have access to all proposals. And Microsoft Flow, which is a workflow orchestration tool by Microsoft, will be used for some of the lightweight automation and to extend the provisioning process for newly created sites. So site designs has certain limitations. Microsoft Flow, kicking off some Azure Government stuff, takes it the rest of the way. The next main component here is site designs, as I just alluded to. Selecting a site design will drive the automated provisioning of the site's theme, site structure, and collaboration tools needed by each proposal site. This is some of those lists and navigation and some of those things I talked about earlier that go into every time you create a place for you to work on the RFP. It always has these types of things in it. So site designs is the core of doing some of those things, or provisioning them. Finally, we have the Azure Government piece, which will be used to extend the site provisioning solution to implement a number of complex needs which go beyond what the site designs are capable of doing alone. These include things such as folder creation and lists and libraries, configuring the site's auditing features, which is kind of required on all sites for NIST compliance. So most of you folks on the webinar today are kind of in tune to that. And also, too, setting up permissions. Oftentimes, a folder, a specific folder, which we'll showcase later on in the demo. But you have a specific place that only certain people need to access. But by and large, everything else is kind of accessible to the rest of the group. So yeah, let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, one final thing to mention here is that none of these building blocks require any additional cloud purchases. I think that's important to note here. If you're in Office 365, you already own all of the tech needed to use this type of solution. No third-party purchases or recurring expenditures outside of the Office 365 licensing you're already incurring or you're already using. All that stuff, it's coming with that license purchase, assuming you have the right licensing. So, important to note. All right, enough background. Let's shift over to that hub site I was talking about. We go to the Proposal Center. Boom, here we are. So the Proposal Center, like I said, is a hub site that showcases a number of elements that, once set up, is kind of easily managed. So you'll see up here at the top, we kind of have a shared navigation that you're going to see eventually on some of these other sites that are associated with this hub site. This navigation will be across all those. So that's, templates, past performance, these things that you typically want to be at your fingertips throughout the writing process, no matter which proposal you're on. We got some aggregated news here where you can kind of add news bites and things like that that are applicable to you and your team. Kind of share things that way. And also it's kind of easy to add some of those news bites without getting into it necessarily. Also, too, you got some quick links here, a little bit different from the navigation. These are some tile-based quick links, your GovWin, your FedBizOps, some different things, methodologies, branding standards, some of these things that you kind of want at your fingertips. Some different feeds as well, whether it be social media. I know some teams kind of like to keep their fingertip or kind of keep their ear to the ground on different happenings, whether it be about a customer. Sometimes you'll find news bites about a specific customer that you want to stay in tune with because you want to weave that into your proposals based off of current events. Also, too, you'll see here rolled up are some proposal sites that are associated with this specific hub. So you'll kind of have quick access to these. And a lot of it, too, just to think about it this way, is there's some artificial intelligence a little bit behind the scenes. So in the event that you got a ton of these proposals eventually that make up the entire hub, you'll kind of want to see the ones you're most actively working on. This, within Office 365 and using the graph, that is what this does. So some of the most recent sites that I've been on, kind of getting ready for this demonstration and this webinar, those things are populated right here at the top, and you can see kind of the recent activities and things that I've been doing with it. So neat stuff there. Also, too, you can kind of highlight proposal team folks, just in case you want to reach out to any of them, send them a quick email, that type of thing, without having to, break out Outlook and just while you're here. So all of that being said, let's move on over, and I'm going to show you how to easily just kind of create and provision a custom proposal site with all the things you need, and then we will kind of compare and contrast with maybe a plain Jane site compared to kind of one that is generated with the provisioning solution. And as we go along, just a reminder, keep questions rolling in. So far, some of the questions have been pretty good, so I appreciate you getting those, and we'll try to get those answered. Patrick is typing feverishly to some of the technical ones, so I appreciate that. So I'm going to go create